Good morning, everybody, and welcome to CTC Live. This is Bruce Fassbinder in the marketing department, and joining me today is Patrice Kennerson. She is the coordinator of Veteran Services here at CTC, and she's going to provide you some VA updates and some tips to help you get that paperwork done for the holidays, and so you stay on top of your benefits and stay on top of all the filings that you need to do, and anything to make the transition or the paperwork smoother for you for your military education benefits. And then we'll share with you the web page so you know exactly where to go and if there's any information that you might need. And here is Patrice Ketterson.
Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well this cold, brisk morning. Thank you once again for joining me this month. I just want to remind everybody right quick that, again, this is an Ask Question information session. So, again, please, no status check questions. I know you're eager to try to get those questions answered. If you do have any status check questions, please direct those questions to the veterans.services at ctcd.edu. Again, if you have any status check questions regarding any of the paperwork that you have already submitted, again, direct those questions to veterans.services at ctcd.edu. Just to give you a recap of what we've already discussed the previous month, which was October, what we had we went over spring registration. Early spring registration has started. It started on, excuse me, October 18th, and it is still going on right now to actually December 17th. So again, early spring registration has started. It has started October 18th and it's still going on to December 18th. It's not going to stop at December 17th. We're going to have a break at that moment. So, again, we encourage all students to go ahead and go forward with early registration. Again, early registration means early processing. And again, early processing means early payment. So, you do want to get that in as soon as possible, especially with the amount of students that we have. We always have a lot of students, regardless of what semester it is. So you want to get that in as soon as possible. That way you can go ahead and get your stuff out of the way. You can get processed. You can go to class. You won't have all that stress to worry about because we know you got other things to worry about than getting classes and getting all that stuff. We know you have a life outside of this, so this is just one less thing you have to worry about. And of course, like I said, again, we have early registration going on from October 18th to December 17th. And again, I stated there is a break in that registration process, and then it's gonna pick back up again because after December 17th, we go on Christmas holiday break from December 18th to January 3rd. So there's not going to be any registration during that time because administration offices will be closed. So unfortunately, there's not going to be any staff or an administration to go ahead and process any registering during that time period. So take that into consideration, which brings up a good point during what we're going to be discussing about today. So, but however, registration will be continuing on from January 4th to January 14th. That's also part of the recap of what we had discussed. We also discussed how to apply for VA benefits. If you're coming in, transitioning out of the military, and you wanting to know how to apply for VA benefits, we discussed that. You can go to www.v as in Victor, A as in alpha.gov. And they give you a link specifically. And when you get to the home page, there's four boxes. You want to go to the box that says education, and there's a link in there that says apply for VA benefits, pardon me. So again, you want to go to www.va.gov, and that'll tell you step by step how to apply for VA benefits. We also discuss pretty much if you're transitioning out of the military, you got all these choices as far as what kind of benefits can I apply for, because there's a multitude of benefits. If you're a veteran, there's Montgomery Chapter 30. If you possibly qualify for that, there's Montgomery, excuse me, not Montgomery, but post 9/11 Chapter 33. There's also the Montgomery GI Bill Selective Reserve, and then there's the Montgomery Chapter 1607 Reserve. Excuse me, yeah, there's Selective Reserve, and there's also National Guard Reserve. So there's a possibility of benefits that you could, excuse me, possibly qualify for. So the question may come, what benefit could I possibly provide for? And if you're not exactly sure or don't know how to answer that question, we have a team of two counselors here that can possibly answer that question for you or help you get to the right answer. And they're called Vet Success. And you can talk to either one of those counselors who are well equipped and very well knowledge in that area, and they can guide you in the direction of where you need to go in regards to, okay, this is where I should go as far as this is the type of benefit that I can go ahead and apply for. And like again, we have two wonderful counselors, and one is named James Morgan, and the other one is named Cynthia Oswell. And they'll be more than happy to speak with you. You can let them know of your situation pretty much, and they can help you guide in the right direction as far as which benefit would be most beneficial to you based on your situation coming out of the military. So again, we have a team here, Vet Success team, two counselors that will be more than happy to speak with you in regards to that. And pretty much the last thing that we spoke about in regards to processing your benefits, where we gave tips on how to have your benefits processed early and how to avoid being dropped for non-payments. Examples like if you're using chapter 30 and chapter 35 as a dependent, chapters 1606 and 1607, those are the type of benefits where you do have to pay for tuition and fees. And just always remember, since those tuition and fees have to come out of your pocket, always remember that you have to take care of that funding yourself. Those benefits do not pay for tuition and fees. So that's kind of the tips that we gave. And if you are using benefits like vocational rehab, which is chapter 31, and post 9/11, which is chapter 33, that you need to get in contact with the Veteran Services Office immediately so we can help you make arrangements with the business office to keep you from being dropped for non-payment. So that's kind of like the examples pretty much of tips and advice that we provided last month on how you can do what you can and get in contact with us and making the steps yourself to make sure that you don't get dropped for non-payment. So overall, that was pretty much a recap of what we went over last month in general. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is I wanted to provide you with an update pretty much from the main VA office. And in general, what I also wanted to go over with you is pretty much preparation for the upcoming holidays, specifically Thanksgiving, and what's going to be going on, particularly with the Veteran Service Office and pretty much with the CTC Administration Office in general, especially if you're in the process of registering for classes or you're in the process of getting paperwork together, things of that nature. We've also been experiencing students who've been withdrawing from classes a lot. So I also wanted to talk to you with that in general. Um, I'm not going to be before you long today, but these are some important issues I did wanted to talk to you about. So it did come across my table, so I did wanted to discuss this with you. One of the most important updates that we were notified from the VA is that when the COVID virus hit, there was a provision that was instituted back in 2020 that allows students that were taking online classes to receive what is called a monthly housing allowance at the same rate for online classes as for resident classes. Now, what resident classes mean, resident is still the same as face-to-face classes. That was a provision that allows students pretty much to get the same rate for online classes as for face-to-face classes. That way, students would not lose out on money when it came to a monthly housing allowance. That provision, as we were just notified as of last month, is coming to an end. The actual end date for that provision is going to be December 22nd, 2021. So, in other words, that provision is going to be expired. That is very important. What that basically means is that if you want to continue receiving a monthly housing allowance at the resident rate, you're going to have to now start looking for courses that are now considered resident. And how do you do that is that when you start looking for courses, I believe now it's on Eagle Self-Serve because I think Web Advisor no longer exists, if I'm correct. It's now been merged with Eagle Self-Service when it comes to registering. So what you do is when you start registering for courses, you want to start looking for courses, and as you see the courses listed, you'll have the subject and the course number, and what you look for specifically is the section number. Now, this is how you can define whether a course is considered resident or online distance learning. Now, a key tip here is that when you want to get the full housing allowance for residency, all you have to do is take one residency course. You still want to be considered full-time status. So say, for example, if your classes are 16 weeks long and you want to be considered a full-time student, you can take up to 3 online distance courses, but only one of those, excuse me, you can take 4 classes total. Only 3 classes can be online distance learning, but one of those classes only has to be a face-to-face class, pretty much. Now, how you can designate the difference between a resident course and a distance learning course, you have to look at the last part of the class that's designated, the section number. If you look at the section number, you'll see where it's defined as T as in Tom, D as in David, and then you have 3 numbers following. Um, the D stands for distance learning. And then if you see something or you see the section number that says T and you see M, M stands for residency. And then, of course, if you see something or the section number that says T and H, that stands for Fort Hood. That also stands for residency as well. Now, there may be some courses left that says T and S. Now, that stands for synchronized virtual learning, and eventually that's also going to go to could be considered as online as well. So take that in consideration. But for right now, TD and then the last 3 numbers are following, that's considered online distance learning. And then, of course, you have what is called the TM, and that's considered residence and courses. So remember that. But as of December 22nd, 2021, which is getting close to the end of the year, I want you to take into consideration that the online courses that were considered at a resident rate are no longer going to be considered at the resident rate for monthly housing allowance. They are now going to be considered online distance learning for distance learning rate. So if you want to consider getting the monthly housing allowance at the resident rate, you have to select courses that are considered face-to-face courses. So I needed to let y'all know that. So just keep that in mind when you start registering from the spring semester going forward, because as stated, this provision is coming to an end. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to list those questions in the chat box, and we'll be able to go ahead and answer those questions more definely. Or if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to email questions about that to veterans services, veterans.services at ctcd.edu. And for anything more specific, and we'll be more than happy to go ahead and answer those questions for you. So yeah, any questions on that whatsoever? So again, um, that provision will be coming to an end, and just remember, you only have to take one face-to-face course. All the rest of the courses can be considered online, but you got to take at least one face-to-face course to maximize on your monthly housing allowance, and that goes for basic Army housing as well. So take that into consideration. Whether you're on Montgomery GI Bill, post 9/11, vocational rehab, Chapter 35, which is dependent educational assistance, 1606 or 1607, regardless of what benefit you're using. Take that in consideration. Okay, so that covers that update that we received from the Department of Veteran Affairs. The next thing pretty much I wanted to talk about was preparation for the Thanksgiving holiday. Now, what I wanted to let y'all know is next week, starting on November 22nd through November 26th, this administration offices will be closed for Thanksgiving. So, and that's imperative because we still have a lot of registration going on. We still have a lot of students that's submitting documents. So, what I wanted to talk to y'all about is that you want to make sure that all your paperwork is in by this coming Friday, November the 19th, theoretically at 11:30 a.m. because that's when the offices start shutting down, pretty much. So if you have any questions or if you want to get those last status checks in at that moment, please do not hesitate to give us a call or reach us by email. And again, the campus is open. We have you're more than welcome to come by. You're more than welcome to step by. Check with your school certifying official if they're available. We'll be happy to check up on your account to make sure if you have all your documents available. But make sure between now and November, um, pretty much November 19th, before 11:30 a.m., that we have everything available and everything for you because once November 19th at 11:30 a.m. comes, we'll be shut down for the November for the Thanksgiving holiday, and we're not going to reopen back the office until November 29th at 7:30 a.m. So that also brings back to the point I was mentioning in regards to what I mentioned before about the break in regards, like I stated, for Christmas break. Um, when I was mentioning about registering. This also is pretty much of a tip at this point. Even though we have early registration still going on, my recommendation also at this point, since the administration offices are going to be closed during that time, I also recommend at this moment that even though it seems that registration may be going on, I also recommend that if you register for classes, that you also start registering now at this moment. And then, especially if you plan on using benefits such as Chapter 31 and Chapter 33, that way we can go ahead and start helping you make arrangements with the business office now, and we can get those classes set in motion and locked for you. So that way you don't have to worry about being dropped for non-payment, and we can go ahead and get that paperwork into the system for you. Like stated, if you're using chapters 30 and 35, 1606 and 1607, and you want to register and get those classes paid for now. You don't want to wait during, or I wouldn't suggest to actually register for these classes during the Thanksgiving holiday because unless you plan on paying for them out of pocket, because there's not going to be anyone available to help you process those classes during the Thanksgiving holiday. And then you run the risk of being dropped for non-payment. So that's something that you really want to take into consideration. So again, we're going to be closed from November 22nd to November 26th. So that's all next week. So please, again, make sure that between now and today is Thursday, the 18th, and we have actually you have until tomorrow, Friday, November 19th until 11:30 a.m. to make sure you get everything in. So if you have any questions, you want to do any status checks, I will provide the email address as well as any phone numbers that you may need to call at the end of this web chat to make sure that you get everything you need to get in. So, because like I said, next week will be closed all next week. So you want to make sure that all that's taken care of. And again, if you want to register for any courses, my recommendation, like I said, you don't want to register next week because the administration offices will be closed for next week. So you don't want to do that. If you have to, wait until after we come back from the Thanksgiving holiday to register. That way we'll be better able to assist you.
Hey, Patrice, we
Yes,
do have a
sir.
question for you.
Uh-huh.
The question came through regarding BAH rate.
Yeah,
If I'm taking 4 classes with a total of 12 credit hours, but
correct.
one is an 8-week course or a 12-week course, and the rest is 16 weeks, will that change my rate from full BAH to partial?
Okay. Um, it depends on the actual start and end date. Um, see, because the way it looks at this point, it depends. Yeah, it depends on when your classes will actually start and end in this case, because you are taking one 8 week, you taking one 12 week, and you are taking two that are 16 week. Now, the way it's probably going to work is that, say for instance, if your 8 week and your 12 week start at the same date as your two 16-week classes, then what's going to end up happening is that you're going to be getting paid eventually as what is called a prorated rate. So you're going to be starting out as full time, but then as one class ends, then your pay is going to end up being reduced. And like for example, say for example, all your classes start out on the same date. As your 8 week class ends, then your pay is going to be reduced to the three classes. As the 12-week class ends, then your pay is going to be reduced to the two classes that ends in the 16 weeks, if that makes any sense. So it's all going to be dependent upon when your classes end and start. If you understand that quite clearly. So what I would recommend in this case, if you can, now sometimes you may not be able to, depending upon how the classes are offered. If you can find classes that have all the same start and end date, that would be more helpful to you.
Thank you for that.
Do we have any other questions thus far, or?
That's the only question that came through. I think, Lee, any other questions in
There
Facebook?
was one more question. They're asking, are the blended classes considered face-to-face?
Yes, that's a very good question. At one point they were, but about 2 years ago, because of so many problems that were as far as there were so many problems with students not being able to get the full amount of the BAH because of the blended classes being considered distance learning. There was a change with VA about 2 years ago, and yes, now the blended classes are considered face to face.
I don't have any other questions on my end here, so I'll just throw it back to you, Patrice, to either give us more information or wrap up, or if you want to walk through the website real quick, so that people can get some
Okay.
information that they might need.
I do have one more piece of information. This has to do with the withdrawal process. What we're seeing is we're getting a few students that are withdrawing after the official withdrawal date, which is November 12th. I do want to give a little piece of advice on that. It's very important. Now, we do understand that U.S. students do have certain circumstances that may have come up. And again, I know I touched on this before in previous WebEx meetings, but especially, and I'm touching on this again because, and the reason why I'm touching on this again is because with the official withdrawal date, there are now two major issues that come up, especially with the official withdrawal date has now come and gone. One issue is that I know I spoke on before, that anytime that you have withdrawn and that your classes have been certified through the Department of Veteran Affairs, any certification that's gone through and you're using VA benefits, if you withdraw, you run the risk of being able, or run the risk of possibly paying VA back money. Now, when it comes to Central Texas College, you now run into a second issue. In addition to possibly paying VA back money, you now run into the possibility of, after the official withdrawal date, you run into the possibility of having your GPA affected. So this is something I want you to make sure that any time that you withdraw after the official withdrawal date, what you run into possibly is that if you have to withdraw, like I said, there are some circumstances that may force you to withdraw from classes. And you may not have a choice to do that. But once the official date has come and gone and you withdraw from class, you run into the possibility of withdrawing with class, in receiving what is called a punitive grade. A punitive grade is a grade with an alphabetic. In other words, you could possibly withdraw with a failing grade. If you withdraw with an alphabetic grade, like withdrawing with an F, for an example, that does have an effect on your overall cumulative GPA, which is your overall GPA. And remember, VA benefits, receiving VA benefits is pretty much the same as receiving financial aid. You do have to maintain an overall GPA in order to continue receiving your VA benefits. So please take that into consideration when you start talking about withdrawal, especially at this late date. Like I said, now some of you may not have a choice, especially if there's what is called an extenuating circumstance. And I know we spoke about that before. In some instances, some of you may not have a choice when it comes to having to withdraw. You may have a serious situation that come up where you may have to withdraw from some courses. But think about your situation, especially at this late date. If you have to withdraw from courses at this point, think about the fact that why you're withdrawing from the course. If it has to do with an emergency, yes, that's considered extenuating circumstance. But if it's not really an extenuating circumstance and you're withdrawing for whatever reason, I can't be the judge of that. You're going to have to decide why you're withdrawing from that course. Think about it. If you have any questions as to why you're withdrawing from that course, my advice is always come talk with us. Give us a call, shoot us an email, and we'll be more than happy pretty much to discuss that information with you. And we'll even, if we have to, we'll even, if it's a bit more complicated, then we'll even seek further information just to make sure that you're making the right decision in some instance. So yeah, because we don't want you to make a mistake to a point where you could be withdrawing from a class and then you end up, number one, paying back money that's unnecessary, and number two, having your GPA affected if it doesn't have to be. So always think about twice withdrawing, especially when you're using VA benefits, because you could be hitting yourself with a double whammy here. And again, if your GPA is affected negatively to a point where your GPA does fall below the 2.0, then number one, you'll get put on probation. And if your GPA doesn't get back up, yes, VA benefits with the Department of Veteran Affairs does work like financial aid. If you don't get your GPA back up, eventually VA does have the right to revoke your VA benefits and you won't be able to use them to go to school. Therefore, and if that is your only means to pay for your education, then you won't be able to pay to go to school. So, like I said, take all that into consideration. It does have a domino effect. So that's pretty much all the information I have for you. Bruce, if you wanted to go to that website again, pretty much,
Sure.
we could go where students can actually get any type of information as needed. And this is going to be at www.ctcd.edu.
Yeah, I'm going to share the screen and we'll walk them through exactly how to get there. So
Okay.
hopefully this will come up and we won't have any issues. Just a second here, it's thinking. There we go. We get the share the
Okay.
homepage.
All right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to students, I believe. And we're going to go to, is it students? Yes, we're going to
Military
go to
veterans.
military veterans. Okay, and we're going to go to veterans benefits.
Okay, and this is a whole wealth of information here, including the live chat hours over here. Also, how to apply, more contact information. I'm scrolling kind of quickly, but I just wanted to show you. Here's the contact information for outside of Texas, as well as our local Texas VA students. So you've got the email address, you've got phone numbers, and you've got our employees who are here to help you, with Patrice being the one, and then we've got several others here that can help you. So this is a very good web page for you to kind of set as a favorite or bookmark, just so you have instant reach for these phone numbers. and
Exactly.
contact info.
We also have information for our vet success counselors if you ever want to get in contact with them in regards to what kind of different benefits should I go for. If I ever run out of one, what would be the next one to go with if necessary.
And here we go. We'll click on the Vet Success webpage, and again, here's the information on what they can help you with. And here are the two representatives at our Vet Success Center on campus, Mr. Morgan, Cynthia Oswald, and their emails and phone numbers and how they can help you and where their offices are located. And also
And
their hours of operation here are Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 4. So again, these two pages are very beneficial for you as far as contacts and other information that you might need as you fill out your paperwork or considering filing for VA benefits or military education benefits to attend classes here at CTC.
Exactly. And remember, vet success is not just for education benefits, they're for other benefits as well. So if this information is very useful to you. So if you have anything like, for instance, insurance, any type of referrals, resume writing, anything such as that, training experience, this information is very, very advantageous for you.
There you go. So there you go. Healthcare benefits, as we talked about, some job placement and so forth. So yes, they are very helpful in more ways than just education.
Hmm.
So, all right, I'm going to stop sharing the screen.
Okay.
All right. Any last nuggets of wisdom, Patrice, that you'd like to share?
No, at this point, that is all I have for everyone today. Again, I would like to thank you very much for attending this session this month. I see in the chat box the information on how you can contact us. If you have any questions, that is my number there at 254-526-1666, or you can email us at veterans.services@ctcd.edu. Again, I do want to remind everyone that we will be available today until 5:30 p.m. and again tomorrow from 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And again, we will be out all next week for the Thanksgiving holiday. So, but we will be returning back into the office Monday, November 29th.
Yeah.
Promptly at 7:30 a.m. So,
Yeah, but just so you know, the Eagle Self-Service is available for registration
yes,
during the holiday week. But as Patrice said, in case there are questions or complications that arise, there will be no one here to help you with that. So if you're confident that you can register for classes during that week, the service will be available.
yep,
But if complications arise, then you're going to have to wait until the 29th of November when we return from the holiday break to get those questions answered. So, okay. All right.
exactly.
Thank you, Patrice. We certainly appreciate you. And for those of you who might have joined us a little bit late or might need to review some of the information that Patrice shared, we will have this available on YouTube later today. And the link will be out there so you can, like I said, pull it up at your leisure, or when if you need to refer back to anything that Patrice has shared with you today, it will be available on YouTube later on our CTC YouTube channel later today. So again, thank you, Patrice. Thank you, Lee.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all for joining us today. And as we head out, happy Thanksgiving, and hope you guys take care and register for the spring classes. And again, a lot of the classes that we have, or a lot of the students that we have, in addition to VA benefits, you're eligible for several of the emergency aid grants. So it could turn out to be a free semester for you. So check those out under the financial aid page, and there's information on the different types of a reskilling grant, CRISA grant, the ARP American Rescue Plan grant, and those things could result in in addition to your military benefits, a free semester for you. So we encourage you to take classes in the spring and jump on that free money. So
Yes.
all
Take
right.
advantage.
Well,
Take
again,
advantage.
indeed. All right. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and thank
Happy
you so much for
Thanksgiving.
joining us. Talk to you soon. Take care.
Take care. Take care. Happy Turkey Day, y'all.
All right.